All right, hello. We got a reaction video for you today. It's Joe Rogan and Lex Fridman. It appears to be the battle of who's the best interviewer, and I was actually put on to Lex Fridman by Joe Rogan quite a few years ago when he had hosted him. So it's interesting to see them reconnect and get together from time to time. They're starting off with a conversation about speed, so this should be interesting. Let's get into it.
Or he might be on speed. You know, a lot of people are on speed, man. A lot of people are on Adderall. It's fucking stunning. It's stunning how many like hyped up people we have out there are really like, we have a speed culture. It makes you very efficient. You get shit done. You got plenty of energy, and some people love it. And like, how much is that flavoring our culture? Wouldn't it be nice to get rid of that, Lex? Just phase that out.
All drugs? Yeah, in general.
All problems with the mind. We could phase
Mushrooms
it out.
only.
Well, you could do it that way, but that takes a lot of work. Or we could just genetically engineer it from the jump. No more emotions.
No more emotions. Because emotions, life is suffering, Dostoevsky and Nietzsche. Ultimately, you're going to, every good thing you have, eventually going to lose. Every hello with the person you love is eventually going to be a goodbye. Why say hello ever?
Why say hello ever again? Also, why? Why does it have to be like that? Like, we have this idea in our head that this way we live is like ultimately, because to us it provides emotions, and because it creates dilemmas and solutions and conflict and resolution. There's so much going on in our minds all the time when it comes to interacting with each other that we feel like it's imperative for existence. But why? It's just because it's the only way we've known.
Joe makes a really interesting case there, and it's interesting that Lex had brought up Dostoevsky and Nietzsche. Of course, they're such prominent figures in philosophical space, arguably some of the best writers of all time. And to double down on this narrative that life is suffering, it seems to be that when you have that acceptance that life is suffering, then the ability to overcome it and conquer it is a noble and moral imperative for us. When you look at it from an existential point of view, we see that our choices are what make us who we are. And when we go through the pain, the choices are what determine your character. Their choices are what allow you to become who you want to be. Never mind the pressure and the circumstances you're in. But Joe kind of breaks that loose for a quick second, says, why does life inherently seem to be like that if it is at all? We don't know that to be fact. It might very well just be how we respond to situations and how we've been conditioned to respond to them for generations. Of course, there's the Buddhist approach that claims that life is suffering because of attachment. So if you relieve any attachment or desire in general, then you'll never have the fear of loss, or you won't ever have to feel the pain of the loss itself. So complete detachment will actually lead you to that nirvana state. In its very simplest form. Of course, it goes so much more in depth than that. But to view life as inherently painful or inherently suffering is odd. And I've often thought about this before. Why does pain have to be something to be transmuted into, let's say, pleasure or an all good? And it seems to be because it nudges us in the right direction, right? When you feel pain, you understand that there's an issue, and it gives you a glimpse of, okay, there needs to be a change here. Pain shows you what you don't want in life. And it has very many benefits, but why can't we learn the same lessons through pleasure? Why can't we learn the same lessons through just operating in good and feeling good all the time? Now, that might be an inherently flawed question, because if you have the ability to make choices and that there is a randomness to the universe, then anything can happen, and how we perceive it will be based on this binary sense of good or bad, depending on how it is towards our well-being.
You have to suffer in order, but why do you have to suffer in order to be happy? Wouldn't it be better if you're just happy? Like, do we really fucking need to suffer? Couldn't that be engineered out? Now, this is coming from a person who purposely suffers all the time so that I could stay happy. And it does work. But God, do I have to do it that way?
Well, there's an incredible...
It's true. It's like, if the goal is ultimately happiness, and whatever that might mean to you or mean in a very broad sense, is if the goal is happiness, why isn't happiness available as the feeling or as the pursuit all the time? Because if pain can be transmuted into happiness, or suffering is transmuted into happiness, and if happiness is available, why not just pick happiness every single time? Now, back to what we had just mentioned about building your character, about being able to conquer yourself and to make possibly more responsible decisions in the future. I think there's something interesting about meaning here, because a lot of the times we find meaning in pain. We find meaning in the things that we are enduring. but meaning a lot of the time necessitates something about either the past or the future. It puts a stamp on something we had experienced in the past, but it also allows us to operate differently in the future because we've acquired a new meaning to what we are perceiving. But what if living in the moment completely releases attachment, and pain actually allows you to release the attachment? If we do take a Buddhist perspective here and we do say that releasing attachment is the purpose, then pain can actually be a catalyst for us to release that attachment. Because when you forgive pain, something that may have happened to you in the past, and forgive that in the moment and realize that the occurrence of the past is no longer affecting you, that inherently will release attachment to the pain. So pain can almost serve as the fact that, wow, I'm experiencing this pain. I now understand that it no longer serves me. I can release that attachment, and then you can carry on that condition into the future. And this has a lot of interesting ties with choice, right? Because with pain comes choice. And I think because there is a certain sense of freedom, we could say free will, that's another touchy topic to dive into. But because you can say there's some capacity for free will, that free will enables us to navigate the pain in a way that's more conducive to who we are. And imagine eradicating that completely. That would be such an odd, it would almost be like changing a natural law of the universe. But pain, again, is just a perception of ours. It doesn't mean that it's inherent to the universe. It's inherent to the way that we are perceiving life. Now, maybe we could simply eradicate pain based on our perception and based on the way that we view life as a binary coupling of good and bad.
Computation machine we call evolution that has constructed human beings. You want to mess with that? You want to get a few software engineers from San Francisco to mess with the computation system that is evolution, that is Earth.
Yes.
This giant computer that for billions of years spent 1 billion years on bacteria trying to figure shit out before it advanced. And now it went through all of these incredible stages. This entire ecosystem that we call life on Earth, probably planted here by aliens. and recently these monkeys started to get super clever, and now we're going to completely change everything.
Yes. You know why?
Why?
Because that's a part of it.
Yeah.
That is a part of evolution, is the monkeys figuring out how to fuck with everything.
Well, that's probably why we haven't have any definitive evidence of aliens from out there, because the monkeys eventually start fucking with things and destroy themselves.
They turn themselves into starfish.
It'd be pretty fun. But just to recall, Joe had mentioned something of the liking before, where he had said that perhaps the way that we're building technological advancements and the way that we're evolving in our society today, maybe not exactly, but at least to some sense, where we're building digital machines that can automate our processes, this could literally be, as unnatural as it seems to humanity, it could be a natural production of evolution itself. Whereas if you were to simulate the human race over and over and over again, maybe we would arrive at the same result, where we build intelligent machines, digital machines that are able to compute in a much more comprehensive way than we can, and are able to automate a lot of our own processes that are laborious for us. And I don't know, that's a great question. What does that really mean for us in our evolution? Was this the only path? Is awareness eventually going to lead to creating an awareness similar to itself, because it is aware of itself and its capabilities? Then you just unlock a whole Pandora's box of the unknown, which is simultaneously fearful and exciting. But who knows if this is a natural phase of our evolution? It very well could be. And if so, do you think that permits some relief?
Oops. Yeah, you're a super genius for like 6 months, and then you become a fucking jellyfish.
I mean, that's a threat.
Yeah.
Maybe there's so many possible trajectories here that end up in what we would think of as boring.
I had a very interesting conversation with Eric Weinstein, and we're going to talk about it on the podcast from a physics standpoint. He's very perplexed about the UFO thing. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is, like, he's one of those guys, like a lot of very smart people, that were like, it's all horseshit. It's all bullshit. But now he's come around to what the fuck is going on.
What's his take?
Well, he doesn't have a take necessarily, but he's looking at all the data and all the evidence. We're going to have like a whole long conversation about it. But essentially, there's one of two possibilities. Either this shit is coming from somewhere else, or it's coming from here. So either we or someone has some real legitimate groundbreaking technology, or someone's visiting us from somewhere else. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's one of the, because now there's enough data that show that these things are moving in a way that they can't understand. There's video that they're moving in a way they can't understand. They're not showing a heat signature from visible means of propulsion. It's not like a rocket. It's like whatever they're doing something different.
UFOs. It's so funny how these conversations always regress into the UFO convo, and I love it. I think it's fun, but it's just a running circle into nothingness sometimes. So UFOs, aliens, they're probably out there, right?
Commander David Fravor, who you talked to, that Tic Tac experience, if they really did track something that went from above 50,000 feet above sea level to 50 feet in less than a second, what the fuck is that? Like, if that's real, we're assuming that all their calibration was on and all their equipment worked together, but it was multiple different visual sightings of this thing too. Different jets saw it, different people, uniform story. Everybody's talked about how it just moved off at insane rates of speed. And then there's all these other ones like Ryan Long and all these other people that he flew with that are seeing these similar behaviors from these things where they just disappear. Mm-hmm. They move off at insane rates of speed. So it's one of two things. Either he said there's been some sort of parallel science, some science that's going on where nobody knew about it, and all the top physicists were completely unaware of this tech. And they were developing it independently in some fucking lab in the mountains for the government, or aliens, or
well, there's a
something.
bunch of other options, and one thing is, I just talked to David Kipping. It's just I highly recommend his YouTube channel, Cool Worlds. He's a legit. It's like Huberman. You sometimes get these like legit scientists who are also good communicators. They'll step up.
Oh, nice.
So he's like the Huberman of astronomy. Young guy. You'll probably have him on eventually. I'm betting.
Sure.
There's.
I'll have him on.
He's brilliant. Definitely check out his channel. Anyway, he's an astronomer, so he's deep in the astronomy, astrophysics community, and he says, and you've said this before too, is he tries to really hard not to think about stuff he wants to be true, like
right.
be very kind of calibrated properly, because with the UFO sightings, there is a part of you. I don't know why exactly, but you kind of want it to be true.
Not kinda. Like all the way. I want like 98% of it to be true.
I didn't expect the conversation to dive so deep into UFOs and aliens. I did think it would be a little bit more about pain and perception, but we'll see what they have to say here.
Agencies and stuff.
Especially because the intelligence agencies are probably resisting this UFO stuff.
If I was an evil dictator,
yeah,
and I wanted to get my government to have control over the skies and to be able to see anything from anywhere at any time, and I wanted to like have mass surveillance drones in the sky above cities, a good way would be aliens. Because we have to capture these things on video, and there's only one way. We're going to deploy these high-resolution video cameras in the sky and capture everything. And there's sightings every day. It won't be a matter of time before we have real high-resolution photo of something we can definitively prove is not ours, is not of this earth.
Well, do you think
people would sign the fuck up?
Do you think there's that much excitement about aliens? Like, I'm not like it's ultimately why are aliens so interesting? Because to me, philosophically and scientifically, it's a super interesting question.
Yeah.
Like, just even the question, are we alone? That's really exciting, but it's not. Do you think people would vote to pay for that versus to pay for?
You don't want them voting for that. Just do it. Just
Oh,
do it.
dictation,
And they'll
right,
go, okay. Just tell them it's imperative. Just like the fucking these bills that get passed. Yeah. We're not voting on those bills, right? Representatives, they just do it. They just do it. They just put them in the sky. The aliens are coming. We got to do something. That would be the new climate change. It's like aliens. Oh, the aliens are coming. And you're either with us against the aliens or you're with the aliens. What are you, a fucking traitor? You're going to give us up to the aliens, you piece of shit? And so there's going to be some sort of a ideological conflict on Earth, whether or not we donate money to the defenses. Like the Democrats who want to defend against the aliens, the Republicans are going to be like, hey, let's just hear them talk first. And we're going to have a fucking giant dilemma here.
Yeah, I mean, I hope aliens are... If they're out there, I hope they're detectable by us humans and we can interact with them, probably not communicate with them. But from my perspective, you have to be humble. Advanced alien civilizations are probably so sophisticated that we dumb descendants of apes cannot possibly even detect them.
I have a feeling there's all sorts of ways that they could be. And some of them could be undetectable. They might be made of light. Who knows? But other ones are going to be just a little bit ahead of us. There's an infinite number of them.
Yeah,
and
but
there's going to
they're
be
not
an
gonna
infinite
get
number
to
of
us.
ones. Sure they will.
He seems pretty confident about that. I mean, I guess I hope so, right? But back to Lex's point there, we might not have the capabilities to comprehend them. But also referring to my last video, we can't always use that as a cop-out answer, because we need to evaluate and build a model for how we can understand things in the future and how we can advance, rather than just saying, oh, well, we don't have the capabilities, so let's not look that way, right? It almost puts a gridlock on ourselves, a limit to ourselves. But evaluating what aliens might be like is a very philosophical question, because it allows us to better understand our own human nature and what the inherent nature of the universe is. What if aliens come by and they're nothing like us, and we realize, wow, our tendencies, our condition is actually not at all synonymous with a nature of life, a blueprint of life itself? Or it might be exactly, we might find so many parallels that allow us to really understand, wow, a lot of our conditioning, a lot of the ways that our brains are formed, a lot of the ways that we interact with each other are simple faculties of how life evolves over time. So I think it'll just give us a better frame of reference of ourselves and the universe, because the only reference we have right now is that of ourselves and animals. And so we don't really understand, back to the initial question of technological advancement, evolution, if it's natural or not. I think understanding a more advanced and sophisticated being would give us those answers in terms of, wow, are we doing things in accordance to natural evolution or not? And if it is natural, what is or what is not important about that? Because it assumes, if it's unnatural, that there's something that has been an appendage to our evolution that we're focusing on more than our evolution itself. Meaning that maybe because we have such an affinity towards pleasure and our reward systems, that we're only doing things and building things to keep pressing that button within our brain, but it has nothing to do with our advancement or our understanding of life as a species. Now, we don't really know, and a lot of that, I think, has to do with how we build habits, and our brains are formed in a way to reward ourselves when we entertain those habits in a correct manner. But those habits can go awry anytime, and we can regress into bad habits, as we know. Back to, even this all ties into the concept of drugs at the beginning too. If the sole goal is just based on tackling our reward system, then yeah, we could just press that button all day and retrieve the drugs and get that dopamine 5x, 10x, 2x, whatever the case might be. But there seems to be something much more fulfilling, much more rewarding about life than just the reward system we have in our brains. And I think that's the pursuit of wisdom, and that's the pursuit that we're all on at the end of the day. And understanding and interacting with an alien species may actually give us some solid insight into what that looks like. And hopefully that could be a cooperation that we see in our lifetime. Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't look like we have the information at hand. But until next time, I want to thank you guys so much. Please like and subscribe. We'll be reacting to more interesting videos soon, and we'd love to know what you think. Tell me, have you met any aliens? If so, I'd love to hear about it. I'm sure everyone else would as well, and I hope they were a good time. So we'll talk soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.